A fresh row has erupted over the recent press conference that was held by the Taliban after Congress MP Priyanka Gandhi Vadra hit out at the centre, alleging that no women journalists they were allowed at that press conference. She also questioned if Prime Minister Modi will clarify his position and whether women's rights are just pole positioning for the Prime Minister. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs, it was quick to respond with a clarification as it said that the embassy territory does not fall under the jurisdiction of the Indian government and that the MEA had no role to play in that particular press conference. Listen in to all the reactions that have come in.
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो ये भारत देश है, हमारा देश है। आपके प्रोटोकॉल उतने ही चल सकते हैं जिसमें हमारे कल्चर को और हमारे देश की महिलाओं का अपमान नहीं हो। ये तो रूल अलग है, प्रोटोकॉल अलग है। ये तो आप हमारी संस्कृति और पूरे वर्ल्ड की, मैं कहूंगी, महिलाओं का अपमान कर रहे हैं। तालिबान में क्या होता है हम सबको मालूम है। तो क्या आप तालिबानी रूल से चलाएंगे क्या?
बल्कि हम तो डिमांड करते हैं कि पूरे फुल डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशनशिप कायम होना चाहिए। तालिबान बहुत स्ट्रेटेजिक इलाका है भारत के लिए और छाबार पोर्ट बनेगा तो हम अफगानिस्तान में बहुत कुछ तरक्याती काम करेंगे और अफगानिस्तान में भारत का प्रेजेंस जरूरी है। अरे यार, भारत में बच्चों को हिजाब पहनने नहीं दिया जा रहा यार, तुम उसकी बात नहीं कर।
मैं ये समझता हूँ कि ये गलत है। मुझसे आज लोगों ने बताया कि ये गलत है। ये एक इत्तेफाक की बात है कि उसमें मर्द थे, औरतें नहीं थी। उन्होंने मना नहीं किया था औरतों के आने। ये गलत है, ये प्रोपेगेंडा है।
तो वहां के विदेश मंत्री अगर आए हैं और अगर उन्होंने कोई प्रार्थना की है और उनकी सुविधा के अनुसार कोई निर्णय अगर आ गया है तो हमारे भारत देश के सो कॉल्ड इंडिया गठबंधन या विपक्षी पार्टियां या कांग्रेस या उसमें पी चिदम्बरम या कांग्रेस के और बड़े नेता अगर ऐसे प्रश्न पूछते हैं जो पाकिस्तान के फेवर में जाएं, अफगानिस्तान और बलूचिस्तान के खिलाफ जाएं या हमारे देश के खिलाफ जाएं, तो वो गिरेबान में झांकें कि क्या हमारे देश को वो आतंकवादी हमला जो पाकिस्तान करते रहते हैं उस आग में झोंकना चाहते हैं।
Well, to talk about this a little more, we also have Professor Sajjan Kumar, is a political analyst, pro-BJP. I also have Dr. Pooja Tripathi. She is the spokesperson of the Congress party. Dr. Pooja Tripathi, I want to start with you. The MEA, it says that India had no role in this particular press meet. It says that this is out of their jurisdiction. It happened in the embassy territory is the reason why they cannot take that particular call. But many are saying that such an event, which is held in the national capital of the country, it cannot completely escape government oversight.
Exactly. This disclaimer by MEO sounds hollow. When you have extended invitations, when you have cleared the security, and when you are the ones, who had passed on this permission to have a bilateral press conference. And the same day, there was an event by Vivekananda Foundation, and there were women were sitting in the audience. And I'm so glad to see that MEA could not put down a condition that India would be run by its own inclusive constitutional norms and not by some Talibani diktat. You are bringing your gender apartheid that you practice at your own homegrown soil to India, and MEA actually going on to that barbarism, actually choosing convenience over conviction and surrendering the long-standing dreams. We have a female president, for God's sake, and I'm sure this Talibani delegation would like to meet our finance minister, who happens to be a woman. I don't know how they do that. And this is very saddening as a woman in politics, as a woman in public life. I'm seeing what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, and how women are actually erased from the public spaces. And government of India going down to this, when you could have used that aid as a refuge to put down your feet or cancel the press meet altogether. You could have your bilateral talks, a man-to-man talk without any women, and you could have put the foot down. So there'll be no press conference when we have so esteemed journalists who are covering foreign policies like Suhasini Hadar, like Indrani Bagchi, have solid CV to their end, and then you succumb to this demand of having women journalists altogether. You practice Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao at your domestic soil, and then you go down to this absolutely absurd demand And India has been a champion of gender justice. We had a female president. We have women doing wonderful at every sphere. And then we go down to some very horrible diktats, a misogynistic diktat that women will not be part of the press conference. And I wonder, I have a huge disappointment with the male fraternity, to the male journalists too. Thank you for discussing this on your show, because I was wondering if somebody would discuss it or not. And this is the first show that all of the three that I've attended today, that they are discussing this topic. That male journalists, nobody raised a protest. Nobody said that if our female counterparts are not part of the same presser, we'll not attend it. No, everything went as usual. You are silencing half of the voice. And no nation, no ideology, no foreign diktat should have the audacity to silence half of the voice. And that's completely unacceptable. And you've disappointed every 50% of this country's population.
Dr. Tripathi, you see this as a matter of national embarrassment that these women journalists, they were reportedly barred from this particular event? You see it like that?
Of course, it's a national embarrassment. It's embarrassing. It's letting down every woman of the country that you are not, your gender defines that you'll be part of that presser meet or not. And I'm sad that India bowed down to this diktat, saying that cultural norm, and it's a pure gender apartheid. They have been erasing women from schools, from colleges, from public life, from news agencies. And you did exactly the same in that small cohort, in that
and
small sample.
Banning books by female authors as well.
Yeah, can you repeat?
All right. Professor Sajjan Kumar, the Congress leadership, especially Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Rahul Gandhi, they basically said that the government, it champions Nari Shakti. Where was that commitment when women were excluded right here in the national capital? Is that a valid question to ask?
Yes, it's a valid question to ask, and there is something which is ideal, there is something which is desirable, right? So the question is entirely valid, but one also has to realize that foreign policy and diplomatic relationship is not entirely an ideological arena. Why? Because you have also to recognize the pragmatic sides. Now, you cannot desire to have a cordial relation with Afghanistan because of the Pakistan factor. That is also one of the crucial factors. So you have to see the competing interest that India is having. One, the gendered notion, which has been a long-term commitment across the party lines and across the time frames also. Two, you also want to have in geopolitical arena Afghanistan on your side, because I've seen what has happened to India since late 1980s when Pakistan and Afghanistan were together. And therefore, there are certain pragmatic trade-off because of the diplomatic compulsions. Now, here the trade-off is that you cannot recognize Taliban as the ruling dispensation of Afghanistan and not let them have their way in terms of addressing the conference. Yes, it's sectarian, but Taliban sectarianism is a reality. Does it mean that India diplomatically should isolate Afghanistan and let it be co-opted by Pakistan, China, and others? Do you want that? So we have to be cognizant of India's strategic interest also. So just treating this phenomenon event as a purely ideological setback and embarrassment takes a very simplistic and textbookish view of foreign policy and India's position. Yes, gender justice and gender notions are important, and for that you have multiple other avenues, but foreign policy and international relations are calculated in a realistic framework, not completely in an ideological framework. Had this happened within the internal political arena, then certainly it would have been a national embarrassment. But somebody doing inside their sovereign territory, embassies are sovereign territory, right? And therefore that sectarianism is a known sectarianism, not just India, even the Western notions, even the superpowers, when they are trying to have their sort of a pragmatic relationships, you see some sort of a trade-off, and this trade-off is not new. That has been there since Nehru's time, right? So that way we have to recognize the compulsions also, rather than taking just ideological and a very theoretical positions. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Pooja Tripathi, is this diplomatic compulsion according to you as well?
I don't think so. Gender equality is not your line of convenience that you take when it suits you and you discard it when it doesn't. We have been a champion of gender equality. We have been a champion of freedom of press. We have been a champion of women's rights. And it's there in our constitution too. And I'm very proud to say that, when I studied public policy, it was representation of women, and I was happy with the way India fared in representation of women in political sphere. It does not say you are providing aid to Taliban. You should have used aid to put your foot down, as I said earlier. You should have used, aid as a leverage to say that this won't happen in our country. Every citizen is equal. By surrendering to this horrible diktat, by surrendering to this gender apartheid, you are actually sending a message that gender equality can any day be derailed when it comes to your geopolitical convenience, when it comes to your line of convenience. And I think that's a very, very wrong statement to say. We are living in 21st century. Every woman is a part of.
This debate over diplomacy, over dignity and women's rights, it will keep playing out after this entire incident. But one question which remains is that should silence in the face of exclusion be seen as neutrality or complicity? That we leave it for our viewers to assess. Thank you very much for both of you for joining us on this discussion.